Thomas Day was born in 1801, a free black man in Dinwiddie County, Virginia. His father, John Day Sr., was a cabinet maker of some renown there. However, his drinking and gambling habits kept his family in debt. In 1817, his sons moved to North Carolina. At that time, free blacks were not always welcome in slave states. Therefore, a fee had to be paid on their acceptance into North Carolina. John Day Jr. and Thomas Day started a cabinet business in Caswell County, North Carolina. While quite successful early on, John decided to return to Virginia, leaving Thomas solely responsible for the business. His craftsmanship and gentleman ways won him respect in addition to economic success. In 1827, Day bought property for a workshop in Milton's Main Street for $550. He placed ads in the newspaper about his furniture. Over the next decade, Day bought surrounding pieces of property and extended the building to expand his workshop, costing another $525. In 1848, Day bought the Union Tavern property, in which he lived and ran his workshop until his death in 1861. The cost was $1,050. Day worked there for 40 years, constantly keeping a line of furniture for sale in the storefront, while also working on outside contracts for high-profile clients. The Union Tavern building consisted of the Day family home on the second level, Day's workshop in the back, and his showroom on the ground floor. In his shop, Day utilized various forms of labor and crafting techniques. He employed white apprentices as well as free black and mulatto laborers. He also owned 14 slaves. This was complicated. Being a free black businessman during slavery in the South meant walking a crooked line. Whites tended to trust free blacks who owned slaves as an indicator that they would not attempt to end slavery. Day bought a tobacco farm where his slaves worked. Day was a master craftsman who specialized in veneered furniture and relied heavily on mahogany as a work material, which he imported from places in Africa and Central America. They created various types of furniture, including armoires, cabinets, beds, tables, desks, chairs, sofas, baby furniture, and other items as requested. Demand for Day's exceptional architectural designs for exterior and interior appointments were much sought by wealthy white homeowners in northern North Carolina and southern Virginia areas. His crafting expressions spoke to Day's creative expertise, second to none. Day worked with hand tools in his earlier years, but in the 1840s he introduced steam power into his workshop. This steam power quickened Day's crafting process and increased production levels. This allowed Day to easily replace structural pieces made from standardized design templates to create an inventory of ready-made elements for furniture orders. Day's outstanding craftsmanship drew the attention of patrons, including the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. In 1847, Day won a contract with UNC to create pieces for the philanthropic and dialectic societies. The work took 2 years. This was longer than originally expected. However, the patrons felt it worth the wait for Day's standard of quality. The secret kept was how much they were paying him. If word got out, It would have enraged white craftsmen in the area over such high payments to a black man. In 1855, at the height of his capital success, Day was commissioned by Governor David Reed to furnish the Reed House. For this project, Day created 45 pieces of complexly crafted furniture. Following this, in 1856, Day won an award for a crafted furniture piece and received an award premium at the North Carolina State Fair for a mahogany wardrobe. Day was a major contributor to the North Carolina economy. Scholars estimate that he held 20 to 25% of state capital investment in furniture production, and that his workshop put out 10% of the state's total furniture production. In 1840, he held an incredible economic influence in Milton, and his business held $1,500 worth of capital resources and product. In 1850, the Union Tavern business boasted a net worth of $5,800 and held around $8,000 worth of crafted pieces, tools, and machinery. Day maintained a high personal credit rating and net worth, estimated to be about $40,000 in 1855 money. In her book, Thomas Day, Master Craftsman and Free Man of Color, North Carolina Museum of History curator Patricia Marshall calls Day one of the fathers of the North Carolina furniture industry. Day often had to accept sales on credit, but could not always collect payments from his white patrons. This created economic difficulties during the Panic of 1857. In the late 1850s, Day declared bankruptcy, and his shop was placed in trust with a business partner. After Day's death, his son, Thomas Day Jr., bought the workshop back and kept it running for another decade. The Union Tavern workshop closed for good in 1871, but is now a museum honoring Day's legacy. Thomas Day is honored with a statue in front of the North Carolina Museum of History in Raleigh, North Carolina.